The wind on Vega 7 could freeze a man solid in minutes. Jin knew this better than anyone. He had lived on this frozen world for 3 years, fixing machines that broke down in the cold, repairing walls that cracked under the ice. He was good at his job. He was careful. He followed every rule. But today, the rules would not save him. Jin was walking back from the eastern relay station when he heard the sound. It was small at first, almost lost in the howling wind. A cry, high and weak like a wounded animal. He stopped and listened. The sound came again, and this time he knew what it was. A cub. His blood went cold, not from the wind but from fear. Everyone on Vega 7 knew about They were the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy. They stood 8 feet tall on 6 powerful legs. Their bodies were covered in bone plates that could stop bullets. Their claws could tear through metal. And their eyes, those terrible golden eyes, could see in complete darkness. But what made the truly terrifying was not their strength. It was their law. They killed anyone who came near their young. Research teams had been slaughtered for simply looking at a den from a distance. Ships had been destroyed for flying too close to breeding grounds. The message was clear: touch our cubs and you die. Jin should have walked away. Every part of his training told him to walk away. But the cry came again, weaker now, and he could not move his feet. He found the cub trapped under a piece of metal. It was wreckage from a crashed shuttle, a shuttle he realized with surprise. The ship must have gone down in the storm last night. The cub was small, barely the size of a large dog. Its bone plates had not fully grown yet, leaving soft gray skin exposed. Blood stained the snow around it. One of its 6 legs was bent at a wrong angle. The cub looked up at Jin with golden eyes full of pain. It did not growl. It did not try to bite. It just looked at him and made that small, weak sound again. Jin knelt down in the snow. His hands were shaking. He was probably going to die for this. They would find out. They would come for him. They would tear him apart and everyone in the colony with him. But he could not leave a baby to die alone in the cold. He lifted the metal carefully. The cub cried out in pain but did not fight him. Jin wrapped it in his thermal jacket and held it against his chest. It was so light, so fragile. Hard to believe this tiny creature would grow into a monster that could kill a dozen armed soldiers. He ran back to the colony as fast as the snow would allow. The alarm started before he even reached the gate. The sensors had detected biology inside the walls. By the time Jin stumbled into the medical wing, half the colony was in panic. Was the first to reach him. She was the colony's, a scientist who studied alien life. She was a small woman with calm eyes and steady hands. Those hands did not shake when she saw what Jin was carrying. "Put it on the table," she said. "Get the emergency kit." Her assistant was a former military medic. He had seen terrible things in his years of service, but even he went pale when he saw the cub. "Jin," he said quietly, "do you know what you have done?" "It was dying," Jin said. His voice was rough. "I could not leave it." Arrived next. She was the colony's chief diplomat, the person responsible for keeping peace with the alien species in this sector. She was usually calm and collected. Today, her face was tight with fear. "The will come," she said. "They will sense that their cub is here. They will think we took it. They will think we are going to eat it." "Eat it?" Jin stared at her. "Why would we eat it?" "Because that is what predators do," said. "In this world there are only 2 types of creatures, hunters and prey. If you take a wounded cub from another pack, it is because you want to consume it. They have no concept of what you just did." Was already working on the cub. She cleaned its wounds with gentle hands. She set the broken leg and wrapped it in a healing cast. The cub whimpered but did not bite her. It seemed to understand that she was trying to help. "This is strange," said softly. "Cubs are supposed to fight. They are born with the instinct to attack anything that is not their pack, but this one is calm." "Maybe it is too weak to fight," suggested. "No," shook her head. "Look at its eyes. It is watching me. It is trusting me. The colony council met within the hour. The argument was fierce. Some wanted to put the cub outside the walls and hope they would take it back. Others wanted to kill it quickly, so they would have no reason to attack. A few even suggested using it as a bargaining chip. Jin stood in the corner, saying nothing. He had brought this danger to them. He knew they had every right to be angry. But spoke up. Her voice was quiet but firm. The cub was in a shuttle, she said. Their own ship crashed. Their own people left this cub behind in the storm. Something is wrong with this pack. Something happened that made them abandon their young. That changes nothing, one council member said. They will still kill us. Maybe, agreed. Or maybe they will want to know how their cub survived. Maybe they will be curious about the creatures who saved what they left to die. Looked at her for a long moment, then she nodded slowly. I will try to make contact, she said. I will try to explain, but if they attack, there is nothing I can do. The waiting was the hardest part. Jin sat outside the medical wing, unable to sleep. He could hear inside singing softly to the cub. It was a simple song, a lullaby from Earth. The cub made small sounds in response, almost like it was trying to sing along. It was the strangest thing Jin had ever heard. A human woman singing to a baby monster that would grow up to be a killer, and the monster was listening. 3 hours before dawn, the sensors detected movement outside the colony walls. Something large was approaching through the snow, something with 6 legs and golden eyes. Grabbed his weapon, though they all knew it would do little good. Jin stood up, his heart was pounding. Walked to the main screen and looked at the image from the outer cameras. A single stood in the snow. It was female, larger than any they had seen before. Her bone plates were from many battles. Her eyes glowed like twin suns in the darkness. The alpha female of the local pack, the most dangerous on this world. She did not attack. She did not roar or charge the walls. She simply stood there in the freezing wind and waited. Came out of the medical wing, still holding the cub. She looked at the screen, then at the others. She knows her baby is alive, said. She can probably smell it from there. She is waiting to see what we will do. What do we do? Jin asked. Nobody had an answer. Outside sat down in the snow. She was not leaving. She was not attacking. She was waiting for them to make the next move. The sun rose over Vega 7, but it brought no warmth. The frozen world remained locked in ice, and the Alpha remained sitting outside the colony walls. She had not moved for 6 hours. She had not made a single sound. She simply watched and waited. Inside the colony, nobody slept. The council argued in circles. Some said they should return the cub immediately. Others said any movement toward them would be seen as aggression. A few suggested they wait until left on her own. But knew the truth, would not leave. A mother would sit in that snow until she froze solid before abandoning her cub. They could not outwait her. They could not hide from her. Someone had to go out and talk to her. I will go, said. The room went silent, was the first to speak. That is death, he said simply. She will kill you before you can say a single word. Maybe, agreed. But she has not attacked yet. She is waiting. That means she wants something other than blood. I need to find out what. Jin stepped forward. Let me go instead. I am the one who took the cub. If anyone should face her, it should be me. Shook her head. You are brave, Jin, but bravery is not what we need right now. We need words. We need someone who can speak to her in a way she might understand. That is my job. She put on her thermal suit and walked to the main gate. The others watched her on the screens. Held the cub close, stroking its small head. The cub made soft sounds as if it could sense what was happening. The gate opened, stepped out into the frozen wind. His head turned immediately. Those golden eyes locked onto like targeting systems. There was massive up close, bigger than any animal on Earth. Her bone plates were thick and her 6 legs were coiled with muscle. Her claws had dug deep grooves into the frozen ground. Stopped 10 meters away, close enough to be heard, far enough to run, though she knew running would be pointless. She bowed her head in greeting. She had studied behavior for years. She knew they respected strength, but they also respected those who showed proper acknowledgement. A bow was not weakness to them. It was recognition. Stood up slowly. She was even more terrifying at full height. She moved toward with careful steps, circling her like a predator examining prey, forced herself to stay still. Her heart was beating so hard she was sure they could hear it. Came close, so close that could feel the heat from her massive body. The lowered her head and smelled her hair, her clothes, her skin. She was checking for threats, for weapons, for the scent of blood. Then spoke. Her voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. The words were in the common galactic language, but shaped strangely by her alien mouth. Why did you not eat it? Blinked. Of all the questions she had prepared for, this was not one of them. I am sorry, she said carefully. I do not understand. Pulled back slightly, her golden eyes narrowed. The small one, the wounded one, you took it from the snow, you brought it inside your den. She tilted her massive head. Wounded prey is easy prey. Why did you not consume it? Understanding hit like a wave of cold water. The truly believed that was why they had taken the cub. In their world, that was the only reason to claim a wounded creature from another pack. Food. We do not eat the helpless, said. We heal them. Went very still. For a long moment she said nothing. Could not read her expression. Faces did not move the way human faces did. But something had changed in those golden eyes. Something that might have been confusion. Heal, repeated, as if the word was foreign to her. You make the weak strong again. Yes. Why? Took a deep breath. This was the moment. Everything depended on her next words. Because it is who we are, she said. Humans do not leave the wounded to die. We do not kill the small and the weak. We protect them. We care for them, even when they are not our own. Was silent for a very long time. The wind howled around them. Snow gathered on bone plates and on shoulders. Neither of them moved. Finally spoke again. I must see the small one. I will take you to it, said. But you must promise not to hurt anyone inside. They saved your cub's life. They worked through the night to keep it alive. His eyes flashed. You ask her to make promises. I ask a mother to trust those who saved her child. Another long silence, then lowered her head just slightly but enough. It was agreement. Led the way back to the colony. The gate opened and stepped inside. The humans in the corridors pressed themselves against the walls, terrified, ignored them. Her eyes were fixed ahead, following the scent of her cub. They reached the medical wing, stood at the door with his weapon raised. He knew it would not stop her. He stood there anyway. Let her through, said. Hesitated, then he stepped aside. The door opened. Saw first, a small human woman with dark hair and gentle eyes was sitting in a chair, holding the cub in her arms. A tube connected to the cub's mouth was feeding it nutrients. Was singing softly, the same lullaby from before. The cub was asleep. Its broken leg was wrapped in a cast. Its wounds were clean and bandaged. It was breathing slowly and peacefully, completely relaxed in a stranger's arms. Froze in the doorway. Jin watched from the corner, his hands clenched tight. He was ready to throw himself between and the if needed, but did not attack. She did not even move. She stared at the scene before her with something that looked almost like shock. This is not possible, said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Cubs do not accept outsiders. Cubs fight and scream and bite. They know only pack. They trust only pack. Looked up at her calmly. Your baby was scared and in pain. I showed it that I meant no harm. I kept it warm. I fed it. I sang to it. After a while, it stopped being afraid. Took a step closer, then another. She lowered her massive head until it was level with the cub. She breathed in deeply, smelling her offspring. The cub stirred slightly but did not wake. It made a small, content sound and pressed closer to its warmth. Looked at, their eyes met, golden and brown, predator and human. "What are you?" asked. Smiled gently. "We are humans and we take care of small things. That is what we do." Sat down slowly on the floor of the medical wing. She was so large that even sitting, she towered over everyone. But she made no threatening movements. She simply watched as continued to hold her cub. Hours passed, did not try to take the cub back. She did not demand anything. She just sat and watched. Jin brought food and water for, though he did not know if she would accept it. She smelled it carefully, then ate. It was the first time a human had ever fed her. It was the first time I had ever accepted food from a human. As night fell, finally looked at. "Would you like to hold your cub now?" Did not answer right away. She looked at the cub, then at something passed between them, something that had no words. "Not yet," said quietly. "The small one is comfortable, let it sleep." Nodded, she continued singing softly. The cub slept on. And in the doorway, watched with tears in her eyes. She did not fully understand what was happening, but she knew that something had changed, something that could never be changed back. A mother was trusting humans with her child. Nature itself had been. Word spread faster than light. In the weeks that followed, the news traveled from ship to ship, station to station, world to world. A human colony had saved a cub. The most feared predators in the galaxy had not destroyed them for it. Instead, the alpha female had sat peacefully in their medical wing and watched a human woman care for her young. It was impossible, it was unheard of, and yet it was true. Did not take her cub back right away. She visited the colony every day, sometimes staying for hours. She watched work. She watched change bandages and check healing wounds. She listened to Jin tell stories to the cub while it recovered. At first, the colonists were terrified. They hid in their rooms when came. They whispered that it was a trap, that she was learning their weaknesses before the pack attacked. But days turned into weeks and no attack came. Slowly, carefully, people began to accept that maybe, just maybe, something different was happening. Then the others came. Arrived first. He was Mate, the alpha male of the pack. He was even larger than his bone plates, thick and dark with age. His eyes were colder, more suspicious. When he entered the colony, everyone expected violence. But met him at the gate. They spoke in their own language, a series of growls and clicks that humans could not understand. Whatever said, it made pause. He looked at the colony, then at his mate, then at the sky. He walked to the medical wing. Was there, as always, with the cub in her arms. The little one was much better now. Its leg had healed well. It played with its fingers and made happy sounds when she scratched behind its small ear plates. Stood in the doorway and watched. His golden eyes were impossible to read. Jin stepped forward, ready to defend, knowing it was hopeless. Then spoke. "You are the one who found the small one in the snow." Jin nodded. His voice did not work. Stepped closer. He was so large that Jin barely reached his chest. The alpha male's breath was hot and smelled of meat. His claws could have torn Jin apart with a single swipe. Instead, lowered his great head. He pressed his forehead against Jin's shoulder, gently, carefully. It lasted only a moment. Then he pulled back. "Den father," said, "one who protects what is not his blood. There is no word for this in our language, so we give you a new word, Den father." Jin could not speak. He did not know what to say. Explained later what had happened. In culture, the bow was the highest honor. It was reserved for the greatest hunters, the mightiest warriors. No had ever given this honor to an outsider. No had ever imagined there would be a reason to. But Jin had done something that had no category for. He had risked his life to save an enemy's child. He had protected what was not his own. He had shown a kind of strength that had no name in their world. So they made a name for it, Den Father. More came after that. They brought gifts, meat from their hunts mostly, which the colonists did not know what to do with. They sat outside the medical wing for hours, listening. They watched feed the cub. They watched check its healing wounds. They watched Jin play with it, making it chase small lights across the floor. They were trying to understand. Began documenting everything. She recorded every interaction, every conversation, every strange new behavior. She was building a record of something that had never happened before. First true contact between humans, and not as enemies, but as something else. She discovered remarkable things. They had no concept of kindness. Their society was built on strength and survival. The weak died, the strong lived. That was the only law they knew. They did not heal their wounded. If it was too injured to hunt, it either recovered on its own or it died. That was considered natural. That was considered right. The idea that someone would help a stranger get better, that someone would spend time and energy caring for the sick, that someone would sing lullabies to a baby that was not their own, these ideas were completely alien to them. But they were learning. One day, a young came to the colony with a wounded leg. He had been injured in a hunt and could barely walk. In normal society, he would have been left behind to die. But he had heard the stories about the humans. He had heard that they could make the weak strong again. He came to the gate and collapsed. Brought him inside. She cleaned his wound and wrapped his leg. She gave him medicine for the pain. She sat with him through the night, even though he was a predator who could have killed her with one bite. He did not kill her. He lay still and let her work. He watched her with those golden eyes, and slowly the fear in them faded. When morning came, he was still alive. When the week ended, he could walk again. He went back to his pack and told them what the humans had done. More came after that. Not many, they were still proud, still suspicious. But a few. The old and the wounded, the ones who would have been left to die. They came to the colony and asked for healing, and the humans gave it to them. The cub, now called Little One by everyone in the colony, finally went home with, but the connection remained. Visited every few days. She brought her other cubs to meet. She let them play in the medical wing while the human woman watched. Began teaching them about healing. She showed them how to clean wounds, how to set broken bones, how to make simple medicines. They were clumsy at first. Their claws were not made for gentle work. But they learned. Slowly, carefully, they learned. It was during one of these lessons that received a transmission from off-world. The message was from a species called the. They were small, peaceful beings who had suffered under attacks for generations. They wanted to know what was happening on Vega 7. They wanted to know how the humans had done it. Done what? Asked. Tamed the ambassador said. Made them peaceful, made them stop killing. Shook her head. We did not tame them, we did not make them do anything. Then how? The ambassador's voice was desperate. How did you stop them from attacking? What weapon did you use? What technology? Looked at the screen for a long moment. Behind her, she could hear Little One playing with Jin. She could hear teaching a young how to wrap a bandage. She could hear deep voice asking questions about human medicine. We did not use weapons, said. We used something else. What? We cared for them, said simply. We saved one of their children. We healed their wounded. We showed them gentleness. The ambassador was silent for a very long time. That is not possible, it finally said. Predators do not understand gentleness. They only understand strength. Smiled sadly. That is what everyone believes, but maybe everyone is wrong. Maybe predators are just creatures that no one has ever been kind to. Maybe all they needed was someone to show them a different way. She ended the transmission. That night, she watched the sunset from the colony roof. Below, in the courtyard, something remarkable was happening. A group of cubs were playing with the colony's children. They were chasing each other through the snow, making sounds that could only be described as laughter. Jin stood nearby, watching carefully, but he was smiling. They are just kids, said, joining on the roof. Or human, young ones just want to play. They do not know they are supposed to be enemies. Do you think this can last? Asked. Was quiet for a moment. I do not know, but I think we have started something that cannot be stopped. They have seen a new way to live. They cannot unsee it. Below, little one tackled Jin to the ground and licked his face with a rough purple tongue. Jin laughed and pushed the cub away playfully. Something had changed on Vega 7. Something that would change the galaxy. 6 months passed. The colony on Vega 7 was no longer just a human settlement. It was something new, something that had never existed before. Humans and lived side by side. They worked together. They learned from each other. They protected each other. Spak had taken to patrolling the area around the colony. They drove away dangerous creatures. They warned the humans of incoming storms. They brought meat from their hunts, and in return, the humans shared their medicines and technologies. Little One had grown. She was no longer so little, almost as tall as Jin now, with bone plates that were hardening into armor. But she still ran to whenever she visited the colony. She still slept at the foot of Jin's bed when she stayed overnight. She still purred when scratched behind her ear plates. Other had begun learning human ways. Young ones came to the colony to study healing. Old ones came to share stories with, who recorded everything carefully. For the first time in their history, they were keeping records of their past. It was a beautiful thing, a hopeful thing. But hope is fragile, and the galaxy was watching. The message came on a cold morning, when the sun was just rising over the frozen plains. Received it in the communication center and felt her heart sink as she read the words. The Sovereign Accord was coming. The Accord was a coalition of species from across the galaxy. They had formed centuries ago for one purpose, to survive the predators had hunted them, killed them, destroyed their worlds. The Accord had lost billions of lives to attacks. They had every reason to hate. And now they had heard about Vega 7. The Accord's message was clear. The humans had made an alliance with monsters. They had betrayed civilized space. They had one chance to correct their mistake, cut all ties with the immediately, hand over any on the colony for execution, and swear never to contact them again. If the humans refused, the Accord would come for them. Called an emergency meeting, the council gathered along with they had never attended a human council before, but this concerned them too. They want us to give you up, said. She looked at. They want us to hand you over for execution. His golden eyes were calm. And what do you want? That is not a question, said firmly. We are not handing you over. You are our allies. You are our friends. We do not betray friends. Made a low sound in his throat. Your people will die for us. The Accord has many ships, many weapons. You cannot fight them. We are not planning to fight, said. We are planning to talk. We will explain what has happened here. We will show them that they have changed. Shook her great head. They will not believe. We killed their families. We destroyed their homes. Words cannot heal those wounds. Maybe not, agreed, but we have to try. The Accord's ambassador arrived 3 days later. His name was not given. They did not share personal names with outsiders. He was small and gray, with large dark eyes that showed nothing. He looked at the humans with distrust. He looked at them with pure hatred. The meeting was held in the colony's main hall. Spoke first. She told the story of the crashed shuttle, of Jin finding the cub, of healing it through the night. She told of his visit, of the weeks that followed, of the bond that had formed. The ambassador listened without expression. You ask me to believe, he said when she finished, that these monsters have changed, that the creatures who murdered my people for 1,000 years have suddenly become peaceful, that the predators who ate our children have learned kindness. Yes, said, I know it is hard to believe, but it is true. The ambassador laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Predators do not change, he said. They cannot change. It is in their nature to kill, to hunt, to destroy. What you have done is foolish. You have made friends with beasts who will turn on you the moment they are hungry." Stood up, she towered over everyone in the room. The ambassador flinched back, fear flashing in his dark eyes. "I was like you," said slowly. "I believed the same things. Strength was everything. Weakness was death. There was no room for anything else." She looked at. "Then this small human held my dying cub and sang to it. She had no reason to help us. We were her enemies. We could have killed her at any moment, but she cared for my child anyway." The ambassador said nothing. "I did not understand at first," continued. "I did not have words for what she did, but I watched, I learned, and I discovered a truth that my people had never known." She leaned forward, her golden eyes burning. "Protection is stronger than killing. Healing is stronger than destroying. My pack is stronger now than it ever was because we have something to fight for beyond ourselves." The ambassador stood up. His face was hard. "Pretty words from a monster. I do not believe them. The Accord does not believe them." He looked at. "You have 1 day to comply with our demands. After that, our fleet will arrive. You will be considered enemies of civilized space." He left without another word. The colony went into emergency mode, organized what defenses they had. Jin worked to strengthen the walls, but everyone knew it was hopeless. The Accord had dozens of warships. The colony had nothing that could stop them. Gathered her pack outside the walls, wanted to fight. The young wanted blood, but silenced them with a look. "We will not attack," she said. "We will not give them reason to call us monsters again." "Then what do we do?" demanded. Was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the colony, at the humans moving behind the walls. She looked at little one, who was pressing against Jin's side, confused and frightened. "We show them what we have become," she said. The Accord fleet arrived the next day. A dozen warships dropped out of hyperspace and surrounded Vega 7. Their weapons were powered and aimed at the colony. One signal from the ambassador and everything would burn. Stood at the communication console, waiting for the final demand. It never came. Instead, the ambassador's voice came through, confused and uncertain. What are they doing?" Looked at the external cameras. What she saw made her gasp. They had not attacked. They had not run. Instead, they had gathered around the colony walls. They were sitting in the snow, shoulder to shoulder, forming a living barrier around the human settlement. But that was not the strangest part. The strangest part was where they had gathered most thickly, around the medical wing, around and the cubs she had helped raise, around the humans who had shown them kindness. His voice boomed across the frozen plain, loud enough for the ships above to hear. "If you wish to destroy our pack, you will first have to destroy those who made us more than killers." The fleet did not fire. Walked outside. She stood among the small and fragile between their massive bodies. She looked up at the ships hanging in the sky. "You wanted proof that they have changed," she called out. "Here it is. The most feared predators in the galaxy are shielding us with their bodies. They are willing to die to protect humans. Is that not proof enough?" The communication channel was silent. Then slowly, one by one, the ships began to power down their weapons. The ambassador's voice came through one last time. It was quiet, uncertain. "How did you do this?" Looked at who sat beside her in the snow. The great predator looked back at her with golden eyes that held no hatred, no hunger, only trust. "We were kind to them," said simply. "That is all, we were kind." The fleet did not fire that day. They did not leave either, not yet, but they did not fire. And across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the footage of shielding humans. They watched predators kneel beside their former prey. They watched and they wondered. The footage spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Every station played it. Every ship received it. Every world watched in disbelief as the most feared predators in the known universe knelt in the snow to protect a handful of humans. The image was impossible to forget. massive warriors, bone plates from countless battles, sitting peacefully around a small human colony. Apex predators shielding creatures they could have killed without effort, monsters protecting the defenseless. Questions flooded the communication channels. Diplomats demanded answers. Scientists wanted explanations. Ordinary citizens simply stared at their screens and wondered if they were seeing something real. The Sovereign Accord's fleet remained in orbit around Vega 7 for 3 more days. They did not fire. They did not leave. They just waited, trying to understand what had happened. On the 4th day, the ambassador requested another meeting. He came alone this time. No guards, no weapons. He walked through the colony gate and looked around at the humans and living together. His dark eyes were no longer filled with hatred. Now they held something else, something that might have been confusion, or perhaps the first small seed of hope. Met him in the main hall. This time she was not alone. Stood beside her, and little one sat at their feet. The young had grown into a beautiful creature, her bone plates gleaming in the light. She looked at the ambassador without fear or anger. She simply watched him with curious golden eyes. "I have spoken with the Accord Council," the ambassador said. His voice was quiet. "They have agreed to wait. They will not attack for now, but they want to understand. They want to know how this happened." "Then listen," said, "and I will tell you." She told him everything. The crash in the storm, Jin's decision to save the cub, long nights of healing, confusion when she saw her child sleeping peacefully in human arms, the slow, careful building of trust, the learning about kindness, the humans learning about the predators who had been their enemies. The ambassador listened without interrupting. When finished, he was silent for a long moment. "We have fought for 1,000 years," he said finally. "We have lost billions of lives. We have built our entire society around surviving them, hiding from them, defending against them." He looked at little one, who had fallen asleep against Leg. "And you are telling me that all of that could have been avoided, if someone had just been kind to them?" "I do not know if it would have worked 1,000 years ago," admitted. "I do not know if it would work with every, but it worked here. It worked with Pack, and that is a start." The ambassador shook his head slowly. "My people will not believe this. They have too much pain, too many memories. They will say it is a trick." "Then invite them here," said. "Let them see for themselves. Let them meet the who have learned to heal instead of hurt. Let them watch the cubs playing with our children." She smiled gently. "Belief comes from experience, not from words." The ambassador looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Over the following months, visitors began arriving on Vega 7. Diplomats came first, cautious and suspicious. Then scientists, eager to study this impossible phenomenon. Then ordinary people, curious about the humans who had befriended monsters. They all saw the same thing, a community unlike any other in the galaxy. Humans and working side by side, predators learning gentleness, former enemies becoming friends. Became something of an ambassador herself. She spoke to the visitors, telling them about the old ways and the new ways. She explained how her people had always believed that strength was everything, that compassion was weakness. She explained how the humans had shown her a different truth. "We thought protection meant killing our enemies," she said in one meeting, her deep voice carrying across the hall. "We thought strength meant having no one who could hurt us, but the humans taught us something else. They taught us that true strength is having something worth protecting. True power is being able to heal instead of destroy." Stood beside her, his massive form a testament to the physical might of the. But when he spoke, his words were soft. "I was a hunter," he said, "the greatest hunter in our pack. I killed more prey than any alive. I thought that made me strong." He looked at Jin, who stood nearby with little one. "Then I watched this small human walk into the snow to save a cub that was not his own. He had no claws, no armor, no weapons. He could have died, but he went anyway." His golden eyes glowed with something like reverence. "That is strength I did not know existed. That is the strength of a Den father." The changes spread slowly at first. A few other packs heard the stories and sent representatives to learn. Some came seeking healing for their wounded. Others came simply to understand. Trained them all. She taught them how to clean wounds, how to set bones, how to care for the sick. She taught them that helping others was not weakness, it was the greatest strength of all. 1 year after the standoff, a message arrived from a distant world. It was from a species called the Another Predator race, nearly as feared as the. They had watched the footage of Vega 7. They had heard the stories, and they had a request. They wanted to send their cubs to the human colony. The message explained that society was much like they had been, brutal, violent, built on survival of the fittest. But some of their elders had begun to wonder if there was another way. They had seen what the humans had done with the. They wanted to know if it could work for them too. Read the message aloud to the colony council. When she finished, there was silence. They are asking us to raise their children, said slowly, to teach predators how to be gentle. Yes, agreed. That is a big responsibility. Smiled, it is what we do. We take care of small things, we always have. The first cubs arrived 3 months later. They were different from the smaller, faster, with sharp teeth and keen eyes. They were frightened at first, hissing and snapping at anyone who came close. But sat with them patiently. She sang to them, she fed them, she held them when they cried, and slowly, carefully they began to trust. More requests came after that. Species from across the galaxy, predators who had been feared and hated for generations, began reaching out to the humans of Vega 7. They all asked the same question, can you teach us to be different? The colony grew. New buildings were constructed to house the visitors. New programs were developed to teach healing and compassion. New friendships formed between species that had been enemies for centuries. Jin stood on a hill overlooking the settlement one evening, watching the sun set over the frozen plains. Little one sat beside him, now fully grown, her massive body warm against the cold wind. Below, he could see humans and a dozen other species living together. Joined them, moving silently despite her size. You started this, she said to Jin. That day in the snow when you chose to save a dying cub, you changed everything. Jin shook his head. I just did what felt right. I could not leave a baby to die alone. That is exactly why you changed everything, said. Because for you it was not a choice. It was simply who you are. She looked out at the colony below. That is what makes humans different. That is why predators trust you with their cubs. You do not see enemies or prey. You see small things that need protection. Jin was quiet for a moment, then he smiled. We have a saying on Earth, he said. It takes a village to raise a child. Tilted her head. What does this mean? It means that raising young ones is not just the job of parents. It is the job of everyone. We all take care of each other's children. We all protect the next generation. Considered this. On we have no such saying. We believed each pack must survive alone. She looked at the colony, at the mixed groups of species caring for each other's young. But perhaps it is time for a new saying, a new law. What would that law be? Jin asked. His golden eyes glowed in the fading light. To protect is stronger than to kill, she said. To heal is greater than to destroy. To raise another's young is the highest honor. She looked at Jin. The humans taught us this. Now we will teach the galaxy. Below, a group of cubs and others were playing in the snow. Their sounds of joy carried up to the hill, mixed with the laughter of human children. Jin watched them and felt something warm in his chest. Humanity had not conquered the predators with weapons. They had not defeated them with technology. They had simply been kind. They had cared for small things. And in doing so, they had changed the universe.